Every empire in history believed it would last forever. Every empire believed its power, its wealth, its influence would protect it from the fate that swallowed those before. And every empire, without exception, was wrong. Rome didn't fall because enemy armies were too strong. Spain didn't collapse because its ships could no longer cross the oceans. Britain didn't crumble because its navy suddenly disappeared. They fell for a far more terrifying reason. Their money died, the currency that funded their armies, their infrastructure, their global dominance became worthless. And when the money died, the empires died with it. There is a mathematical pattern in the rise and fall of great powers, not chaos, not coincidence, a sequence that repeats with chilling precision. Currency debasement, exploding debt, loss of trust, economic paralysis, collapse. It has destroyed every dominant empire before, and right now, in real time, the United States is following that exact same script. In 2025, the warning signs are no longer subtle. They are screaming from every chart, every headline, every decision coming out of Washington. The only question left is not whether the pattern is happening, but where we are on that timeline. Are we still early enough to avoid the worst? Or are we already past the point of no return? History gives us the answers. The pattern never lies. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every empire begins with strength, so overwhelming that collapse seems impossible. Military dominance, economic superiority, a currency trusted as real wealth, a symbol of stability and power. But greatness always comes with a hidden flaw. Success demands more success, more territory, more armies, more spending. And soon, even the richest empires discover that power costs more than wealth can sustain. This is where the pattern begins. Stage 1. Dominance. The empire sits at the top of the world. Confidence is absolute. The currency is sound. Trust is universal. Stage 2. Overextension. Expansion becomes an addiction. Armies multiply. Costs explode. Promises exceed income. Stage 3. Deficit spending. Leaders assure the population everything is under control. They borrow instead of sacrifice. They fund ambition with debt instead of discipline. Stage 4. Currency debasement. When borrowing isn't enough, they cheat. They weaken the currency quietly, hoping no one notices. They pretend fake wealth is real prosperity. Stage 5. Inflation. Prices rise, savings shrink. The population struggles to survive, while leaders insist nothing has changed. Stage 6. Loss of confidence. Citizens stop believing the money has value. Allies look elsewhere. Global power slips away. Silently at first, Stage 7. Collapse. The system breaks. The currency dies. And everything built on that currency, the military, the government, the empire, falls with it. Rome proved it. Spain proved it. Britain proved it. The pattern has never failed. And today, the United States is already halfway through. Let's go back to where the pattern first carved its warning into history. Rome, for centuries. The Roman denarius was real, honest money, pure silver, pure trust. It paid soldiers who conquered continents. It fueled roads, cities, and the greatest empire the world had seen. But conquest is addictive. Territory requires troops. Troops require money. And Rome eventually wanted more than it could afford. So emperors cheated the system. First, 10% less silver, then 50%, then just a thin coating of metal pretending to be wealth. Soldiers received the same number of coins, but those coins bought less every year. Inflation soared. Trade broke. Tax collectors couldn't collect. Farmers demanded gold or goods. Rome did not collapse from the outside. Rome devoured its own currency, and the empire starved. Then came Spain, the richest empire of its day, drowning in silver from the New World. But more money doesn't mean more wealth. When everyone has more coins, each coin is worth less. Prices exploded tenfold. Spain spent on palaces and wars while importing what it should have produced. Debt soared. Defaults came again and again, 4 times in 40 years. Trust died before the empire did. And Britain, the most powerful superpower of the modern age, the pound sterling ruled global trade for 2 centuries, backed by gold and the greatest navy ever built. But 2 world wars drowned Britain in debt. To survive, they abandoned gold, printed money, devalued their currency, and watched colony after colony break away. Not because they were conquered, but because they could no longer afford to rule. 3 empires, 3 currencies destroyed, 3 lessons ignored. Now look at the United States, the modern empire, the issuer of the world's reserve currency, the nation that believes the rules of history no longer apply. But the numbers say otherwise. The pattern is repeating, line for line. Like Rome, America's military footprint spans the planet. Nearly 800 bases in over 70 countries, a global force that requires global spending. Like Spain, the US has unleashed a flood of currency unlike anything in history. And like Britain, America once backed its money with gold until 1971, when dollars became nothing but promises. In 1980, the national debt was under $1 trillion. Today, in 2025, it has exploded to more than $36 trillion, a 40-fold surge in less than half a century. And every day, the debt climbs faster than the economy that must eventually pay for it. Foreign nations, allies notice, the percentage of global reserves held in dollars has dropped from over 70% to just 58% and falling. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and others are building an alternative financial system, one that doesn't rely on the dollar at all. America says it is different. Every empire said the same thing. The truth is painfully simple. The United States is already deep into the same sequence that destroyed Rome, Spain, and Britain. The only question left, how much time is left before the pattern reaches its final stages? Across America, the warning signs are no longer predictions, they're headlines. For decades, leaders insisted the dollar was untouchable, that money printing had no consequences, that inflation was under control. But reality always catches up. Prices are rising faster than paychecks. Families are pushed out of homeownership. Savings evaporate without a sound. Inflation officially hit 9% in 2022, but groceries, rent, healthcare rose far more. People feel it every time they fill a cart, swipe a card, or pay the bills. That is currency debasement, not in theory, but in daily life. Meanwhile, nations around the world are moving away from the dollar. Why? Because they see the math America refuses to confront. China and Russia stockpile gold. Saudi Arabia, long the backbone of the petrodollar, now sells oil in other currencies. BRICS expands membership and influence. Central banks diversify reserves like a quiet vote of no confidence. And then there's the financial system itself, stretched thin by cheap money. Bank failures aren't relics of history, they're the front page. The government responds the only way it knows how. More bailouts, more printed dollars, more promises. It's a cycle that always accelerates at the end. Once trust begins to crack, it never heals. It shatters. The United States is not just repeating history, it's speeding through the most dangerous chapters. This isn't just a national problem, it's a personal emergency. Your money buys less every month. Your savings shrink while the government insists inflation is under control. Your dream of owning a home drifts further out of reach, while your grandparents bought one on a single income. Retirement, that used to mean rest. Now, for millions, it means working until your body gives up, because the dollars you saved no longer hold the value you expected. Debt traps tighten around everyday life. Car payments, medical bills, credit cards, everything costs more. Everything takes longer to pay off. Every aspect of life becomes harder, while officials claim the economy is strong. The dollar still looks the same color, same faces, same promises. But its power, what it can actually buy, is disappearing. That is exactly what Roman soldiers felt when they were paid in coins that looked identical, but bought a fraction of the food. That is what Spanish merchants experienced when silver flooded Europe and prices soared tenfold. That is what British families endured when their savings lost 30% of their value overnight. History is not past. It is happening right now. In your wallet, we are living in stage 5, the era where society feels the pain before leaders admit the crisis. The next stage is the most dangerous of all. 4 empires collapsed before they realized what was happening. 4 currencies died before anyone in power admitted they were the cause. 4 times, leaders claimed they were different, that the old rules didn't apply. Every time, they were wrong. The pattern has never failed because the math has never changed. You cannot outvote a broken balance sheet. You cannot negotiate with inflation. You cannot print trust. The United States is standing at the same crossroads Rome, Spain, and Britain once faced, with the same red alarms flashing. Debt that cannot be repaid, a currency losing its status, a government spending money it doesn't have on promises it cannot keep. The question is no longer if a reset comes, it's how and how hard. A slow decline into second-tier status like Britain, a violent, chaotic collapse like Rome, or a painful reset that rewrites the global financial system. Whatever path history chooses, the impact will reach every wallet, every home, every future. You are living inside the most important financial turning point of our lifetime. And when this pattern completes, the world will ask, how did we not see it coming? But you did. Because history is telling the story in real time, and the pattern never lies. If you want to understand what happens next, before it happens, make sure you rehear, because we're just getting started. Subscribe, follow the pattern. Prepare for what history says is inevitable.